I was there, standing in the pulsating heart of a BTS concert. The air was electric, thick with the scent of adrenaline and pure, unadulterated joy. Jungkook, the man who had been my only light in the dark, leaned down from the stage, his eyes locking onto mine with a smile that could dissolve the coldest winter. He reached out his hand, and as my fingers grazed his, I felt a surge of electricity that made my soul scream with happiness. But the dream shattered like dropped glass. My father appeared out of the mist, looking like a vengeful ghost from a battlefield. He wasn't holding a mic, he was gripping a baseball bat, his voice a thunderous, terrifying roar that drowned out the music. "Get home! Now!" One hand was held by my idol, the other snatched by my father's iron grip. Suddenly, a sharp, stinging slap exploded across my face, and the purple ocean faded into a sickening gray. I bolted upright, my lungs burning, my pulse a frantic drum in my ears. There was no stage, no purple lights, only the crimson, furious face of the colonel looming over me in the dim light of my room. He ripped the headphones from my ears with a violent jerk and tossed my precious, handwritten lyric notebook into the trash like it was nothing but filthy waste. "Get up! You're late for school, soldier. Welcome to my life, where a dream is considered a dereliction of duty. I live in military family housing, or MFH, a sterile, meticulously ordered town tucked deep within the steel perimeter of a high-security army base. It's a world guarded by barbed wire and men with assault rifles, where the air doesn't smell like rain or freshly cut grass. It smells like diesel, gun oil, and the constant, heavy thrum of Black Hawk helicopters overhead. To the world, it represents peace and order. To me, it is a high-security prison made of gray concrete. I am not Aria here. I am Colonel Miller's daughter, a title that carries more weight than my own body. But when the house falls silent, the drafty, oil-stained garage becomes my sanctuary. I dance in the dark, my only guide being the flickering screen of a laptop hidden under a tarp. I practice my vocals in a whisper, trying to drown out the staccato rhythm of live fire drills echoing from the nearby range. One day, I finally summoned the courage to speak my truth. Dinner was silent until I shattered it. "Dad, after graduation, I want to go to South Korea. I'm going to audition to be an idol." The reaction was instantaneous and violent. My father's fist slammed onto the wooden table, making the silverware jump and clatter. "Are you out of your mind? Do you think I raised you just to watch you become a puppet for strangers to stare at? You're a Miller. The military is your blood, your future." The argument erupted like a volcano. We stood toe-to-toe, my voice cracking with tears but fueled by a fire I didn't know I had. "It's my life, not your mission," I screamed. In the peak of our fury, I threw down the gauntlet. "Fine, let's make a deal. If I get a perfect 4.0 GPA and a gold-stamped acceptance letter from West Point, you let me go. I'll prove to you that I can be a soldier and a star." He looked at me with a cold, mocking smirk, accepting the pact not because he believed in me, but because he was certain I would crumble under the weight of my own impossible challenge. Managing two identities was like balancing on a razor's edge. At school, I was the phantom dancer, the weird girl who lived in a fortress. My classmates filmed me practicing in secret, posting the videos online to mock me as a delusional dreamer. But the real battlefield was the garage. During a midnight rehearsal for On, the choreography demanded a high-intensity jump. I pushed too hard, landed poorly, and heard a sickening, dry crack. Pain shot up my leg like a lightning bolt, and within minutes, my ankle was a swollen mess of purple. The physical agony, combined with the crushing isolation, finally broke me. I slumped against the cold concrete and sobbed until I couldn't breathe, ready to throw my dance shoes into the fire. I was ready to surrender, to finally be the silent, dutiful soldier my father wanted. But then, his voice echoed in my head, a mantra he'd hammered into me since I was a child. A soldier doesn't stop when they are tired. They stop when the mission is finished. I realized then that if I quit now, I wasn't just losing my dream. I was proving him right. I was proving I was weak. I pulled out my phone. I watched an old video of BTS, my North Stars. They were talking about the damp, cramped basements where they used to practice for 14 hours a day, living on nothing but cheap instant ramen and the hope of a tomorrow that seemed impossible. I looked around my dry garage, thought about the hot meal my father had provided, and felt a surge of shame. If they didn't quit in a basement, I couldn't quit here. I wiped the tears from my face, wrapped my ankles so tight it turned numb, and forced myself back to my desk to finish my physics assignment until the sun bled through the clouds. The next night, I found a canister of military-grade deep heat on my pillow. No note, no signature, just the sharp, stinging scent of peppermint. On the day the acceptance letters arrived, I placed the 4.0 GPA transcript and the official admission letter from West Point on his mahogany desk. I didn't say a word. I simply stood at attention, waiting. I finished the mission. I finally whispered, "Now, let me go and fight my own war." To my utter shock, the colonel didn't argue. Instead, a rare, soft smile touched his weathered face. He looked at me not as a superior officer, but as a father who had been holding his breath for 17 years. He confessed that his cruelty had been a shield. He didn't hate K-pop. He hated the thought of his fragile daughter being chewed up and spat out by an industry that has no mercy. He had been simulating the hardship, testing my resolve to see if I could survive the scrutiny of millions and the venom of anti-fans. "If you couldn't survive me," he said quietly, "you would never survive them. But today, I am satisfied that you are ready." At the airport terminal, as my flight was called, he didn't give me a hug. He stood at attention, his back straight as a spear, and gave me a crisp, formal military salute. It was the highest honor he could bestow, a recognition that I was no longer a trainee, but a soldier who had earned her deployment. I walked onto that plane with his pride as my armor. The entertainment headquarters in Seoul was a labyrinth of glass and steel, vibrating with a tension that was far more suffocating than any basic training. When I walked into that audition room, the air vanished from my lungs. Sitting at the long judges' table were the 7 members of BTS, the very men whose voices had been my only shelter during those long, lonely nights in the garage. My hands were shaking, but I channeled the colonel's discipline. I didn't sing a bubbly pop song. Instead, I performed a piece about the heavy armor we wear to hide our dreams, blending K-pop precision with the sharp, aggressive movements of a military drill. Every stomp of my boots echoed the bass I had left behind. Every movement was a silent shout for freedom. I danced until my heart felt like it would burst through my ribs, pouring every ounce of pain and every drop of deep heat into that room. As the music faded, one of the members leaned forward, a knowing smile playing on his lips as he reached for the golden envelope. Then, the lights cut to black, leaving my fate hanging in the silence like an unexploded shell. Fast forward 5 years. I stood in the wings of my debut showcase, the roar of the crowd a deafening, beautiful ocean of love. As I stepped into the blinding spotlight, my eyes searched for one specific person. And there he was, in the center of the VIP section. Colonel Miller wasn't wearing his medals or his uniform today. He was wearing a purple fan hoodie, a light stick gripped in his calloused hand, and a massive banner with my face on it. He wasn't standing at attention, he was screaming my name at the top of his lungs, his voice louder and more passionate than any teenager in the stadium. In that moment, I realized that dreams aren't meant to lull us to sleep. They are meant to wake us up and give us a reason to fight. I had become a soldier of the stage, and as I began to sing, I knew I had finally won the war for my own soul. If Aria's journey touched your heart, please leave a comment, give us a 5-star rating, and follow the channel to support my story. Stay brave, everyone. Goodbye.